The House will come to order. Prayer by the chaplain.
Ladies and gentlemen of the House, let's look to the Lord. Father, we thank you for this day that you've allowed to us. And even though sometimes the difficulties, the problems, and darkness seems to try to take over our lives and our circumstances, it doesn't matter how dark the night, we believe in the coming of the morning. So as you've allowed us to convene, we pray that you would usher in your spirit, give us your sense of wisdom and congeniality, and guide us in the decisions that are made in this place. We believe you that we can be better. We claim this in the name of the Christ. Amen.
The chaplain for today is Reverend Alfred Babington Johnson from Fair Step Foundation, Minneapolis, Minnesota. Pledge of Allegiance. Please remain standing and recite the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Members, please remain standing as John DeCosmaker, the official anthem singer for the Minnesota Wild, will perform the national anthem. Let's play hockey and let's go wild. The clerk will take the roll. Yeah, I think Aaron was going to do it, but you can.
You can check the speaker in.
How do I do that? Here?
Yep.
friendly reminder, members.
Members, please check in for the quorum call. The clerk will call the names of members who have not yet checked in.
Egbadje.
Egbadje present.
Egbadje present. Bonner.
Bonner present.
Bonner present. Bolden. Bolden.
Top left.
Okay.
Top left breaker panel.
Davids.
Recording. You turn it off.
Davids. Damuth. Damuth. Drzeskowski.
Drzeskowski present.
Drzeskowski present. Franzen.
Franson present.
Franzen present. Frazier.
Let me know who those excused are.
Okay. Frazier. Grunhagen. Grunhagen. Hamilton.
Hamilton present.
Hamilton present. Hausman.
Houseman present.
Hausman present. Herr.
Her present.
Herr present. Hollins.
Hollins present.
Hollins present. Howard. Howard present. Keel.
Keel present.
Keel present. Kosnick.
Present.
Kosnick present. Mecklin.
Mecklin present.
Mecklin present. Miller.
Miller, present.
Miller present. Morrison.
Morrison present.
Morrison present. Nelson N.
Present.
Nelson N present. Olson B.
Olson present.
Olson B present. Pinto. Pinto present. Swazinski.
Swazinski present.
Swazinski present. Tice. Tice. Thompson. Thompson. Okay, here. Grunhagen. Grunhagen. Tice. Tice. Damuth. Damuth. Thompson. Thompson.
The clerk will close the roll. A quorum is present. The clerk will read the journal of the preceding day.
Journal of the House, 92nd Session, 2022, 103rd day, St. Paul, Minnesota, Thursday, May 5th, 2022.
If there is no objection, further reading of the journal will be dispensed with, and the journal will be approved as corrected by the chief clerk. Hearing no objection, the journal is approved as corrected by the chief clerk. Motions and resolutions. The following motions and resolutions, there are copies of the non-controversial motions at the House desk and online. If there is no objection, we will take action on these motions first. Hearing no objections, the motions prevail. Comparison reports. A copy of this order of business is online. If there is no objection, the motions will prevail. Hearing no objection, the motions prevail and the substitutions will be made. Reports of standing committees and divisions. A copy of this order of business is online. If there is no objection, the reports will be adopted. Hearing no objection, the reports are adopted. Second reading of Senate files.
Second reading of Senate file number 3008.
Second reading. Introduction of bills. The following House files have been offered for introduction today. The Chief Clerk will report the House files and give them their first reading.
Introduction of first reading of House Files 4866 through 4868.
First reading, House Files 4866 through 4868.
Calendar for the day. The first bill on the calendar for the day is House File 3285. The clerk will report the bill.
House File number 3285, number 1 on the calendar for the day, an act relating to local government, the first engrossment.
I recognize the member from St. Louis, the author of the bill, Representative Sandstede.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. House File 3285 is a modernization bill that would allow counties the option to sell for-fee parcels of land through an online process. This really is truly a local control bill. Online real estate sales have been embraced currently by Minnesota Tax Forfeited Trust, the Minnesota DNR, and the federal government. For-fee parcels of land are pieces of land that was originally purchased by the counties for a specific purpose, and they have either served their purpose and are no longer needed, or they could be fragments of land that were left over from a project and again are no longer needed. The current online auction process with tax forfeited lands has significantly expanded the bidding pool and the number of bids, resulting in an increased revenue for the counties. Online auctions also provide a convenience for members of the public who won't need to take time off work to participate in an auction. My county, St. Louis County, at over 6,800 square miles, is the largest county in the state of Minnesota. A drive from Ely to Duluth could easily take over 2 hours, given good road conditions, much longer in winter. You could drive for over 150 miles and still be within the same county. Ultimately, members, this bill saves tax dollars, it creates more efficient government, and it puts taxable land back on the tax rolls. It has the support of the Association of Minnesota Counties and the Minnesota Intercounty Association. And with that, I would stand for questions.
There's an amendment at the desk. The clerk will report the amendment.
Quam moves to amend House File number 3285, the first engrossment. The amendment is coded A5.
The member from Olmsted, Representative Quam, to your amendment.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and members. In my area, a lot of the rural people don't like the fact that they aren't informed of some of these online auction activities, plus that people from across the country and others purchase. And I think it's best if the local people in the community, the ones that have been living there, that have been paying taxes there, would have priority in receiving this land, especially the small farmers when property becomes available around them. Maybe it's got some tillable land, maybe it's got some pasture land. But it's tough for the small farmers, and too often these online auctions have people from across the country who purchase up land for whatever reason. They don't live here. I think there's a billionaire out on the West Coast that owns more farmland than anyone else in the country. So I think there should be priority and first up to the people that live there, have been paying taxes, and are Minnesota citizens. Now, this language is meant to have a difference for the people that actually live there, the neighbors, and the people that care about the community. Unfortunately, this language, because we've got a few hours to come up with amendment language when we're told a bill will reach the floor, needs some work. So what's wrong with it is it mentions corporations. Not that there are concerns about huge corporations gobbling up ag land or rural land. It's because small-time farmers and families that get together to farm incorporate. But saving the small farms and helping them to continue into the future is important. So that would make this problematic. But not the idea that we should, every time we pass legislation, think about the impact on the local community. Think about the people in that community, and should they get a little bit of an advantage because it's their community. So I bring this amendment to bring the topic before us so we think about it. Every time we do something that impacts the local communities, we think about it. Is it fair? What could the possible bad outcomes be? And online auctions have been a tool for people not connected to buy up Minnesota. So I will withdraw this amendment, but hope you keep in the back of your mind the intent. Thank you.
Representative Quam withdraws his amendment. There's another amendment at the desk. The clerk will report the amendment.
Quam moves to amend House File Number 3285, the first engrossment. The amendment is coded A3.
Representative Quam.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and members. Too often I've heard about someone that lived in the same township as some property, and they discovered it was sold when they saw something being done to it. I think notification of the people, the neighbors right there, is important. In the rural part, if you're within easy distance to be able to take your tractor out there and till the soil, or be able to manage pasture land, I think it's important that the people right there be informed of these online auctions, because we have in our community hardworking people, and certain times of the year they barely have time to do anything but sleep and plant or harvest, and they don't have time to be looking around on the internet. And so I think it's important that the people in that community are informed. And this amendment is meant to guarantee that the people around any of this property that gets put up are informed. Because I think they're the ones that can make the best use of that land and that property. So that's the intent of this amendment, is let the locals know. Thank you.
Representative Sandstede.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Representative Quam and members, this amendment is really expensive. It is duplicative, and it's kind of toothless. Currently, the counties are already required to provide notice by under this amendment. Counties would be required to notify residents within a 2-mile area, a radius, of these pieces of land that are up for sale. At $4.33 per mailing, I have an example in St. Louis County of one parcel that even in a mile radius, we would have 1,200 pieces needing to be mailed. The value of the parcel is $2,100. The cost of mailing it out, not including print materials and time, would cost a county $5,196. So under this amendment, the county would lose $3,096 through an online process. Currently, under the language of the bill, people are already notified. Notice is provided within the bill in triplicate. Publications in the official newspaper, the newspaper of general circulation, and on the county website. So I find this amendment not helpful, extremely costly, and in essence, it would be growing government. So I ask for a no vote on this amendment.
Further discussion on the A3 amendment. Representative Quam.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And frankly, the movement from newspapers to online notification, a lot of the local newspapers are gone now. And the ones that are around are a shadow of what they were, and they're a weekly. And there's been a movement to allow just online notification on the website. But again, there are times of the year where our rural constituents are working before sunup and after sundown, and they don't have the spare time to go online. And the one day that the paper comes, if there's a better way in committee, I brought up the being able to have an in-person because we don't have great broadband. I brought up the issue of notifying the people right around there, and I didn't get a visit. Maybe it was just because we're remote and we didn't have the conversations that we do before and after committee. But there has to be a better, more inclusive, informational avenue in greater Minnesota. In fact, in our small towns and rural areas. In this bill, I understand the intent, but it's got holes and weaknesses. And I can't support something that hasn't gone through the extra work to try and address the concerns brought up in the committee. And I'm just saddened that we're voting on a bill that has obvious flaws. I'm not perfect, so maybe my amendments aren't going to fix this in a perfect fashion. But by golly, we owe our constituents a better bill than this one is. Thank you.
Seeing no further discussion on the Quam A3 amendment, all those in favor of the amendment, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, please say no.
No.
The motion does not prevail. The amendment is not adopted. There's an amendment at the desk. The clerk will report the amendment.
Nash moves to amend House Bill number 3285, the first engrossment. The amendment is coded A2.
Member from Carver, Representative Nash, to your amendment.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And before I move forward, I would request a roll call on this.
Representative Nash requests a roll call. Seeing 15 hands, there will be a roll call. Also, I think everybody should wave to the visiting class up in the gallery so they know that we can see that they're there. Good morning. Good afternoon.
Representative Nash.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. So, Representative Sandstede, I appreciate the bill, and in committee, I think she's occupied, so I'll talk about the amendment before we go to there. So the amendment would allow for a hybridized type of auction, and I know Representative Sandstede also advocates for rural broadband. This amendment tries to address the practical reality that not everybody in the rural areas has access to broadband. And we talked about this in committee, and my goal here is to be a little bit like some of the auction houses that have both online bidders and in-person bidders, with the reality that the people who don't have access to broadband, which is many of our counties, would still probably like to buy a piece of land if they have been notified in the paper, and sometimes you hear a little bit of word of mouth. But if you don't allow for them to have an in-person option, then they're not going to be able to take advantage of the opportunity to buy a piece of property that, in the county's example, these people's taxpayer dollars went to purchase this piece of land anyway. And now what you're saying is, if you don't have broadband, you have no avenue to buy this piece of land that could be adjacent to your property. You just talked about an example where I think you said there were 1,200 potential notifications that would have to go out. There might be that many people who would like to buy this land, but if they don't have access to broadband, your bill is saying, too bad, you have no option to buy this land. Furthermore, I think this goes to address some of the issue that there are many online bidders that would represent companies or entities. Let's pick California, who's trying to shop carbon credits, that would allow them. And Madam Speaker, would the author yield?
She will yield. Representative Nash.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Representative Hanson, my amendment is trying to make it so that other organizations, like a business in California, may not be able to buy these for carbon credits with an online-only option. Have you considered that, and have you looked into that, and how do you respond to the question?
Representative Sandstede.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. It is a public auction. It would be inappropriate for us to weigh in one way or the other on this process. So an open, transparent public auction is the option we are offering to the counties.
Representative Nash.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Well, an open, transparent auction, if that's your true intent, should be a hybrid option, because I don't think you've ever disagreed with me that people don't have internet access up there. And by saying that, you're making it less open, less transparent for people, many of whom have actually participated in taxation, whether they liked it or not. And for that reason, I think that much like a Sotheby's or other online auction houses that have both in-person and online, that it's a simple request. It's a simple request that says, make it so that people who are adjacent to this property that have no broadband can take advantage of this. And it is fair, it is transparent. So with that, I believe there's an amendment to my amendment that you're going to want to get to, Madam Speaker.
It's been withdrawn. Representative Nash, any further discussion of your amendment?
Well, thank you. That's great. So again, members, I think this is a good and fair amendment that says that we're trying to make it so that people who don't have broadband access, who you freely admit exist out there, will, if this amendment doesn't go on, will not be able to participate in this auction, which I think is an egregious miscarriage of justice. I would request a green vote. I have asked for the roll call, and it's been granted, and I would stand for questions.
Further discussion to the A2 amendment. The member from Sandstede, Representative Johnson.
Madam Speaker, Representative Nash, thank you for this amendment. Now, my district is just north of here. It starts about 37 miles north of this facility, this beautiful building. In that township, the only internet service available is dial-up. If you ever try to use dial-up on Windows 10, it doesn't work. They have basically no internet service at all in 90% of that township. They're working on it, but it's still years away before the people have access to the internet. And guess what? There's county-owned land that they're looking to get rid of in that township, where the people who live right next to it would not have the ability to even bid on it because they do not have the internet service they need to do it. Representative Nash, thank you for this amendment. I think we need, until we have full broadband capability across the state, we need to offer the hybrid availability. Otherwise, we're doing a disservice to the people in our communities.
Any further discussion? Member from Carver, Representative Bowe.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. So this bill would provide or require an online auction. And while that has a lot of positive aspects in that it opens up the sale to a much larger market, bringing better price to the county, that sort of thing, I really like this amendment because it also does make it easy for folks who are at home in the county, in the area, and are struggling with online either availability or maybe online ability, because there are a lot of folks who just don't feel comfortable going online to make a purchase like this. So I really support the amendment. I hope other members will as well. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Representative Sandstede.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Members, I want to go back to my opening comments. This is an option for counties. It doesn't mean they have to conduct their business online. It is an option. It is local control. I live in an area that doesn't have broadband consistently. That doesn't mean if you don't have access in your house that you don't have access to broadband. There are other places you can go. You can go to a library, for instance, and make your bid there. Going into a county office the day of an auction, for instance, is problematic because then you have to use county equipment. You have to be using county personnel. Again, growing government, more costly. And there's some diciness around using their technology, their equipment for these purposes. So members, again, please keep in mind, this is an option. If it's not a good fit for a county, they have the right to handle their sales in the way they normally would. And again, if this was so problematic, I don't think we would have the support of MICA and AMC. So I would ask that you vote this amendment down.
Representative Nash.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Well, Representative Sandstede just said that you can go to a county library, but in her opening statement, she also said that you may have to drive for 2 hours to get to somewhere like that. So I think you've just made the argument against your own amendment. So once again, members, this is, if you're about transparency, you're about fairness to the people who have put money into the system to buy these now county-owned pieces of land. You want to avoid places like California buying this for carbon credits, which will eventually lead to blight and a reduction of housing stock. Vote down the amendment. But if you're in favor of being a good neighbor, saying that the person that has lived in a county for 20, 30, 40 years that has the right or should have the right to do this, if you don't take the amendment and they go the online only option, they're not going to have an in-person only option or in addition to that hybridized. So this is a good amendment. Vote green.
The clerk will take the roll on the amendment. Members, please vote. Will the clerk please call the names of the members who have not yet voted?
Acom.
Acom, no.
Acom, no. Bonner.
Bonner, no.
Bonner, no. Damath.
Damuth, aye.
Damuth, aye. Drazkowski. Drazkowski. Franzen.
Franson votes yes.
Franzen, aye. Hamilton.
Hamilton, aye.
Hamilton, aye. Hausman.
Houseman, no.
Hausman, no. Hollins.
Hollins, no.
Hollins, no. Keel.
Keel, aye.
Keel, aye. Kosnick. Kosnick. Miller.
Miller, aye. Miller, aye.
Miller, aye. Nelson, N.
Nelson and I.
Nelson, N, aye. Olson, B.
Olson, B, aye.
Olson, B, aye. Swazinski.
Swazinski, aye.
Swazinski, aye. Thompson. Thompson. Drazkowski.
The clerk will close the roll. There being 56 ayes and 68 nays, the motion does not prevail. The amendment is not adopted. There are no further amendments at the desk. The clerk will give the bill its third reading.
Third reading, House File Number 3285.
Third reading. Any discussion to the bill? Any further discussion? Seeing none, the clerk will take the roll on the bill. Members, please vote. Members, please vote. Will the clerk please call the names of the members who've not yet voted?
Acom.
Acom, aye.
Acom, aye. Bonner.
Bonner, aye.
Bonner, aye. Damuth.
Damuth, no.
Damuth, no. Drazkowski. Drazkowski. Franzen.
Franson, no.
Franzen, no. Hamilton.
Hamilton, aye.
Hamilton, aye. Hausman.
Houseman, aye.
Hausman, aye. Hollins.
Hollins, aye.
Hollins, aye. Keel.
Keel, no.
Keel, no. Kosnick. Kosnick. Miller.
Miller, aye.
Miller, aye. Nelson, N.
Nelson and I.
Nelson, N, aye. Olson, B. Olson, B. Swazinski.
Swazinski, no.
Swazinski, no. Thompson. Thompson. Drazkowski.
Drazkowski, no.
Drazkowski, no. Kosnick. Kosnick. Thompson. Thompson.
The clerk will close the roll. There being 77 ayes and 47 nays, the bill is passed and its title agreed to. Members, we don't need to go through 2 times on the voting on the bills. We do that as a courtesy. So please pay attention. Please vote when your name is called. It will really speed up things for the entire body. The next bill on the calendar for the day is House File 3768. The clerk will report the bill.
House File number 3768, number 2 on the calendar for the day, an act relating to civil law, the first engrossment.
The member from Anoka, Representative Koegel, to your bill.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and members. When Minnesotans are injured, they sometimes are compensated for their injuries by settling up a long-term payments through a structured settlement that is approved by the courts. These settlement payments are intended to address ongoing needs for income, losses, and medical bills, and sometimes long into the future. A recent Star Tribune series exposed a problem with our current law by allowing these long-term settlements to be sold to third parties, frequently for small fractions of what they're actually worth. The article pointed out the lack of clear tools to prevent the types of abuse that have occurred in the past. After working through the fall of 2021 and now all of 2022 with the consumer advocates, attorneys, and annuity insurance companies that create the structured settlements, and some of the structured settlement purchasing companies, we have developed a strong set of consumer protections, clear guidance to the courts, and registration and prohibited practices for companies that are attempting to purchase structured settlements in Minnesota. Through House File 3768, we improve the information that is disclosed to consumers before a transaction, including financial implications of the transaction in terms that they can easily understand. It will now require the courts to make a decision and written findings that the transaction is in the best interest of the consumer based on the new and clear factors. These include the ability to meet financial obligations after a sale of a settlement, if the sale will impact eligibility for public assistance, the age, maturity, and mental capacity of the person proposed to sell their settlement. Currently, the customer makes the decision that the sale is in their best interest, and they are often misled about the long-term financial losses they face after the sale. House File 3768 allows the court to obtain independent advice about the sale of a transaction, which will be paid for by the company proposing to purchase the settlement. We also now mandate the courts to obtain independent advice if the proposed sale is the sale of a minor settlement or the sale involves someone with an impairment that could make them more susceptible to being abused. This bill requires companies that want to purchase settlements in Minnesota register with the Secretary of State and post a bond to pay damages in case they fail to perform their obligations. We also impose a new list of prohibited practices like preventing constant harassing phone calls, pressuring a sale, so that these companies can be held accountable for improper conduct. We need structured settlements to provide long-term needs of the injured. These payments prevent the injured person and their families from relying on government assistance and often give them the means to live independently with dignity. We're not encouraging the sale of these settlements, but with this bill, we can correct the past abuses and make sure any sale is given better scrutiny before the courts and that the consumer will have much better information about what they're about to give up. So, thank you.
There's an amendment at the desk. The clerk will report the amendment.
Koegel moves to amend House File number 3768, the first engrossment. The amendment is coded A3.
Representative Koegel, to your amendment.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The A3 amendment is just some technical fixes to language, and so hope for a green vote on that one.
Any discussion on the A3 amendment? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Those opposed, please say no. The motion prevails. The amendment is adopted. There are no further amendments at the desk. The clerk will give the bill its third reading.
Third reading, House File Number 3768, as amended.
Third reading as amended. The member from Anoka, Representative Scott.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I'd like to thank Representative Koegel for her hard work on this bill. This is a really good consumer protection piece, and it prevents people from this process being abused and people getting pennies on the dollar on these settlements. So I encourage members' green vote.
Any further discussion? Representative Koegel.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I just really want to thank all the advocates who helped me on this. It was a really amazing process that we were all able to come together and get agreement on this bill. And I kind of affectionately call this bill the I just cut off my fingers, give me work to do bill. So this is what I've been working on for a while. So thank you, guys.
The clerk will take the roll on the bill.
Members, please vote. Will the clerk please call the names of the members that have not voted yet?
Bonner. Bonner.
Aye. Bonner, aye.
Bonner, aye. Damath.
Damath, aye.
Damath, aye. Drazkowski.
Drazkowski, no.
Drazkowski, no. Franzen.
Franson, yes.
Franzen, aye. Hamilton.
Hamilton, aye.
Hamilton, aye. Hausman.
Hausman, aye.
Hausman, aye. Hollins.
Hollins, aye.
Hollins, aye. Keel.
Hill, aye.
Keel, aye. Kosnick. Kosnick. Miller.
Miller, aye.
Miller, aye. Nelson, N.
Nelson and I.
Nelson, N, aye. Olson, B.
Olson B, aye.
Olson, B, aye. Sandstede.
Sandstede, aye.
Sandstede, aye. Swazinski.
Swazinski, aye.
Swazinski, aye. Thompson. Thompson.
The clerk will close the roll. There being 121 ayes and 4 nays, the bill is passed as amended and its title agreed to. Next bill on the calendar for today is House File 3768.
House File number 3845, number 3 on the calendar for the day. An act relating to children and families, the first engrossment.
I recognize the author of the bill, Representative Hanson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you, members. May is National Foster Care Awareness Month, and I'm really glad that we get to kick it off talking about this bill to create an office for a youth foster ombudsperson. I want to start by thanking everyone who's worked on this bill and supported it. The trauma and pain and compassion that has come out of this work has been indescribable. This has been an exceptionally bipartisan effort from beginning to end, and for that I am truly thankful. Representative Schumacher, Representative Johnson, Representative Albright, Representative Nash, Representative O'Neill, and everyone who engaged at our various committee stops, I want to thank you for helping make this bill what it is today. I also want to thank Representative Moran, Representative Hassan, Representative Keeler, Representative Cleavorn, Representative Becker-Finn, and Representative Pinto, and all of the other legislators who have prioritized the safety and well-being of kids for your careers and in this work. The awareness that you've brought to these important issues over the years matters, and thank you. And as always, we can't go without saying thank you to our amazing staff with all of the amendments at our various committee stops for making sure we worked well across the aisle to get all of the changes we needed. I also want to take a second to thank Huang Murphy and Foster advocates for stepping up to advance this important legislation. And most importantly, I want to say thank you and welcome to all of the young folks joining us here in the gallery today. Izzy, Ada, Shauna, Maya, and all of you have shared your stories and called for change, and thank you for that. I hope that today is a day that you remember and a reminder as a day where you made a difference. Not just in your own lives, but in the lives of young people in foster care for generations to come. Your work has created a permanent mark on Minnesota history, and I am so proud of you. I believe that storytelling helps us change the world, and your stories and advocacy are what got us here today. It's been my honor to have the privilege to work with you on this, and today I present this bill on your behalf and with your stories on my heart. Because together with youth and advocates, legislators, and staff, we've developed a bill that will improve lives and make the differences we need. HF 3845 seeks to create an office of a youth foster ombudsperson. And we need to do this because children in foster care face critically important issues, and they deserve to be served and protected like all children in our state. Every kid deserves to have a caring team of adults and peers in their corner who are looking out for their best interests, and that's not the case for too many kids. Youth in foster care do not always have a resource or an avenue for intervention when they face abuse, neglect, discrimination, or exploitation at the hands of our very own child protection systems. In 2021, there were approximately 12,400 children and young adults experiencing out-of-home care, with nearly 7,700 in foster care on any average day. Though the number of children in foster care overall has been on a decline, there are still alarming disparities. Younger children, children from rural counties, and children of color are disproportionately represented in our foster care system. And in Minnesota in 2020, Indigenous children were 16 times more likely than white children to be removed from their homes. African American and Black children were nearly twice as likely. And children of 2 or more races were nearly 7 times more likely to experience out-of-home placement than white children. The disparities facing Indigenous kids and families in particular are some of the worst in the nation, and too many of us see the similarities between today's child protection system and the horrendous boarding schools of the past. The system is infected by biases, and we're working to address this through other bills and lots of great efforts. And the goal of this office is that this will be another stepping stone in the right direction. The office aims to provide oversight and for the systems that are tasked with protecting Minnesota's children from harm, and to create a pathway to adequately track the issues that are affecting young people. As it stands today, there are no organizations collecting or tracking the complaints and common concerns that arise for youth in foster care. And while we of course have some data that gives us glimpses into our system overall, the lack of more data means that we are lacking that ability to make data-informed decisions as we work to protect kids and implement the meaningful changes that they need. Establishing this office will promote equity and equal opportunity for more kids in the foster care system. And although this will not address all of the needs, I don't want to leave us thinking that this is all we need to do. Establishing this office formalizes the organizational structure necessary to create positive changes. It will allow us to, for more capacity to do independent investigations, and it will allow us to track areas where these interventions are needed. This office will improve Minnesota's child welfare system by digging deep to address the intersecting issues that youth and families often face in the foster care system, whether that be discrimination, neglect, exploitation, high school and higher education graduation barriers, housing stability, homelessness, and substance abuse. We have what it takes to do better. So thank you again to everybody who's supported this effort so far, and I would like to ask for your green vote today. Thank you.
There's an amendment at the desk. The clerk will report the amendment.
Hanson J. moves to amend House File Number 3845, the first engrossment. The amendment is coded A7.
I recognize the author of the amendment, Representative Hanson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you to Representative Johnson for bringing this amendment forward. Through the committee process, we made several changes to this bill, and this is the last one that we needed to make to get this in the shape we wanted. This bill will add a requirement that the reports of the findings of the Ombudsperson's office will not just be sent to the governor, but will also come to the chairs and minority leads of the corresponding committees in the legislature. So thank you again, Representative Johnson.
I recognize the member from Sandstede, Representative Johnson.
Mr. Speaker, Representative Hanson, thank you for this bill. Normally, I don't like the omnibus persons, but this is needed. And with this amendment, not only does the report go to the governor, it goes to our leads and our chairs. So if we do find a problem or if one is arising, we hear about it. Instead of waiting halfway through session before we find out, we will know ahead of time so we can work on those issues when they're minor issues before they become critical and serious issues, so we can plan ahead and get the work done on time.
Further discussion to the A7 amendment. Okay. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say no. The amendment, the motion prevails and the amendment is adopted. There's an amendment at the desk. The clerk, the amendment has been withdrawn. Third, there's no further amendments at the desk. The clerk will give the bill its third reading.
Third reading, House File Number 3845, as amended.
Third reading. Discussion. I recognize the member from Hennepin, Representative Claiborne.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I stand in support of House File 3845. This bill is to ensure the health, safety, and welfare of children for whom the state is responsible. I would like to thank Rep. Hanson and all of the youth and adult fosters who informed this work. Thank you for creating a safe space for voices to be heard, for the needs and concerns of our children to be met. This bill is a public affirmation of our responsibility to our children. We see you, we hear you, you are our children, and we care about you. Members, I urge a green vote.
I recognize the member from Scott, Representative Albright.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And members, first I want to thank Representative Hanson for bringing this bill forward. As has been said, people just need to know that they belong. And with that, a sense of belonging, not only that, but you need to have a space, a place where you feel protected, where you can be encouraged, where you can grow. And that would come without fear or uncertainty. And so in a time and place where those that are living in the shadows of life, they need a hero. This state needs to be their hero, and I fully endorse this bill. Thank you, Representative Hanson. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I recognize the member from Carver, Representative Nash. Thanks, Mr. Speaker. Representative Hanson, thank you. Abused children should always have a voice. And you've heard my story before, so I won't go into it again, but as an abused child, I never had a voice. So this is a good bill. I am normally very opposed to spending money on new commissions and ombudspersons and so on, but the reason that we're having to do this is because the department has done just a pathetic job at their job. And that should come as no surprise, but this is what we're looking at. This is why we need this bill, because, again, they're just kids. And they need a voice. They need somebody who will say, we give a damn. We're going to make sure that you come out of this clean and whole and that you know that you're loved and cared for. So give kids a solid chance. Make sure that those who are suffering abuse have a voice and have an avenue to have the injustices that are pressed upon them an opportunity to have those addressed. So vote green. Thank you. I recognize the member from Sandstede, Representative Johnson.
Mr. Speaker, members, I come from a different place on this bill. I've been the one that's had to remove the children from the home and place them somewhere. But I'm not going to get into that too much because I've seen what happens with those kids when they finally do come home, when the parents have had the training and the education to take care of them right. I've seen the kids just happy in court because of the treatment they receive from very good foster care people. But I'm going to talk about somebody else today. There's an individual in this chamber that spent 2 months in foster care. First 2 months of their lives. That person was me. After I was born, I was placed into foster care until the parents that I have, my mom, the ones I called my mom and dad, unfortunately, they are no longer with me today, but they treated me as their own. They adopted me and it was just like everybody else. The treatment I received, from what I can tell from what my parents told me, how I was when they picked me up, was fantastic. But the story of those kids up there should never happen. We need this bill to protect kids so we have no more kids like those up there. We have some fantastic foster parents across this state. Unfortunately, we have the few that aren't. We need to find them and make sure they don't do this again. Because we've had too many kids. One kid in that foster care system is too many. But we've had a few of them that they never unpack their suitcases because they keep going from home to home. We need to give them stability so they can become great people, better people than they already are. I give credit for what those up there have done to get this bill forward. I'm hoping this will make a change because for those few, unfortunate few, but we should have no unfortunate few. And I want to thank again Representative Hanson for bringing this forward. It's a good bill. I'm hoping everybody votes green because we need to protect every child in this state.
I recognize the member from Anoka, Representative Rowley.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So on a very cold and blustery October day, a young man came into my life. His name is Shane. And Shane came into my home, and my wife and my children and I welcomed him in. And we had a problem with Shane, and that was we loved him, but he didn't know it to begin with. And Shane, as a growing kid, 12-year-old, he was hungry. And one day he went up onto the shelf in the pantry, and he basically took a bunch of food and cleaned out the shelf. And my wife and I talked about it, and we said, there's something deeper going on here. So we refilled the shelf with, the nutrition bars and
and peanut butter and a few things. And the next day, we saw that the shelf was empty again. What Shane was doing was he was taking the food and he was putting it into a backpack because he wasn't sure he was going to get another meal. He had been disappointed in those young 12 years and just wasn't sure. So I sat down with Shane and I said, buddy, this is your shelf. And I put his name on it. And I said, if there's anything on this shelf, anything at all, it's yours. You can't steal it. You can't take it. It is yours. You can do anything you want with it. So we refilled it. 2 days later, it was empty. There's no way he could eat it all. He was bringing it home to bringing it back to school for his friends. So we refilled the shelf. And we did this a few times until he finally got it. 21 years old, Shane moved out of my house, moved into his own house. Shane went to college, got a great job. And this weekend is a very emotional weekend for me because it's Mother's Day. About, I won't tell you how many years ago. I can't remember exactly how many years ago. But a few years ago, Shane came over to the house for Mother's Day, and he walked up to my wife, he looked her in the eye and said, "Hi, Mom," gave her a hug. And he pulled out of his pocket his driver's license. Now, a few weeks before that, my son Don and my son Shane showed up in court here in Minnesota. And we gave my wife and he gave my family a gift I had never could have imagined. He changed his last name. His name is Shane Raleigh. And I am so proud of my son. I am so proud of you, buddy. This is the type of work that we need to do in the House of Representatives. We need to protect our children. And we need to do it in thoughtful, caring, loving ways. And this is a way that we can reach out to the kids that are up here. And we, each and every single one of us, can be the example that we're trying to set. So Shane, you've heard it 100,000 times from me. I love you. To my family, thank you for giving Shane the love that only you guys could. Thank you for this bill, Chair Hanson. This is great. And I apologize for being emotional, but this is the work that we should be doing. This is where we can show Minnesotans who we are. Thank you.
I recognize the member from Hennepin, Representative Katiza-Watun.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you, Representative Hanson, for bringing this bill forward. It's a proposal that's near and dear to my heart, and as so many members have spoken about today, the role that foster care has played in my family's life is tremendous. And Representative Raleigh mentioned that Mother's Day is coming up, and while this bill isn't about us as individuals and us as parents, it's about the strength of the foster youth and adults who are with us in the chamber today and who are with us every day across the state of Minnesota. I am continually impressed and in awe of their courage and their bravery. And I just want to say that every child across the state of Minnesota deserves a safe and loving family and a place to call home. And this bill will help us get there. It's a step in the right direction. We have changes that we need to make. We need to uplift the voices of the youth and adults who have gone through things that no child should ever have to go through. And I just would like to encourage those who are in the chamber today, those who are listening at home, if you have love in your heart to share with a child in the foster care system, or you'd like to potentially adopt a child out of the foster care system, should they not be able to be reunited with their biological family, I would encourage you to take those steps and do that, because they have so much love to give. They have so much knowledge and experience. And I know that they're all going to do great things one day. And we are able to help them do that with this vote today. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I recognize the member from Candy, Ojai, Representative Miller.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I do appreciate the messages about foster care, and I couldn't agree more. We need to expand on foster care. And with the coming work ahead, we're going to have a greater need for foster care and for adoption. So let's keep moving forward. I do want to take a slightly different take on this. I do support the bill, but it's in the case of this is to address foster children and the troubles that they're having. And I've experienced multiple times while I've served in office, I've gotten calls to where children have been placed in foster care and their parents want them back. And the county is all powerful. And the county does not seem to be consistent with what the rules are and stuff. Understand, members, this will empower parents to basically get their kids back when they should. I have had multiple cases where people are indefinitely in foster care and there's absolutely no need for it, but we have people within the county that are suddenly deciding to be their own gods because they have so much power. This office is going to enable those people to address these issues too. So I'm thankful for it in that way. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I recognize the member from Ramsey, Representative Moran.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. I wasn't going to speak on this, but I do want to thank Representative Hanson for your work and for your leadership on this bill to create a specific department for our children in out-of-home placement. And I use the word our children because as legislators and lawmakers, I want us to be reminded that when kids do need to be removed from their homes and put in out-of-home placement and put in a home with foster parents, that we have an obligation and responsibility to make sure that those children's needs are being fulfilled, that we understand that the experience is traumatizing, so they're going through trauma, that we give them treatment. When we realize that kids are showing up in a school system and they are angry and they are sad and they are frustrated and they are rebelling, it is because of what is happening to them, what has happened to them. And so this is an opportunity for us at the state to realize that we are now the parents of these children. And we have a responsibility and an obligation to make sure that they are well. And yes, there are absolutely awesome foster parents. I know some. I took in my son's friend in his senior year and became his foster parent. And today he is like 30 years old and I'm his mom. He just asked me the other day, what would you like to do for Mother's Day? So we need loving people to see the humanity in our young people in the darkest moments of their lives to step up. But as a state, we have a responsibility and an obligation to make sure they're doing well. And as Representative Miller say, when the parents are working hard to be reunited with their child and they're doing all that they can to create a safe, nurturing environment for that child to return home, we need to make that a priority. But we need a department that is primarily focused on that child, the children with out-of-home placement. So again, this is an issue that is very, very important to me, as it is with so many in the body, but we have to align policies and practices. And you're right, Representative Miller, we have to hold those social workers who seem to be dangling little strings over parents who want to be reunified and blocking them for getting that opportunity to be reunited with their child in a safe, nurturing, thriving environment. So again, Representative Hanson, we have so much more work to do in this arena, to do it through a strength-based lens. We have so much that we need to do to really be a part of creating a process where we're looking at the whole family, that grandparents are important, because when a parent lose their parental rights, the grandparents also lose any rights to that child. The auntie and cousin also loses all of their rights. And that disconnect from all family members can be horrendous, can be very, very traumatizing for that child. And of course, that all depends on the age of the child. So again, thank you for bringing this bill forward. I also want to say to Hans Murphy, thank you for your leadership and helping us as legislators be better at what we do and how we do what we do. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, members.
To the author of the bill, Representative Hanson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you to everybody who spoke up today. We have a long way to go, like Chair Moran was just saying. I've also have another bill you'll love, House File 3380, about family preservation, too, if you want to keep working with me on making the system better next year and in the years to come. I invite you to join me at that table. And members, as I said in the beginning, May is National Foster Care Month. And this bill brought forward was brought forward by an organization called Foster Advocates. And so as I wrap up today, I just want to tell you a little bit about what they do and why I chose to work with them. Their work is centered on the collective organizing with youth in foster care. They operate under the belief that those closest to a problem are those closest to solving it. Their relationships with youth in foster care inform all pillars of their work. My heart goes out to organizations like this, because without these kinds of public-private partnerships, we wouldn't get to hear from as many kids as we've heard from. So thank you to Foster Advocates. Thank you, Huang, for all the work you've done. And thank you to all the kids who kept pushing them to do it too, because we know you guys played a piece in that. Foster Advocates hosts and operates a leadership program that allows youth and young adults to reclaim their foster experience as a part of their identity, and to have opportunities to connect with their peers and others who have been in the system. They are doing the greatest work of amplifying the voices of the youth in need who have been or maybe are still in the foster care system. And I can't leave this floor today without again saying thank you and commending you for this fantastic work. And what a way to kick off National Foster Care Month. Thanks again, and I would ask everybody in the chamber for a green vote today. Thank you.
There being no further discussion, the clerk will take the roll. Members, please vote. Will the clerk please call the names of the members who have not voted yet?
Acom.
Acom, aye.
Acom, aye. Damath.
Damath, aye.
Damath, aye. Drazkowski.
Drazkowski, no.
Drazkowski, no. Franzen.
Franzen, aye.
Franzen, aye. Hamilton.
Hamilton, aye.
Hamilton, aye. Hausman.
Hausman, aye.
Hausman, aye. Heinzman. Heinzman. Hollins.
Hollins, aye.
Hollins, aye. Keel.
Keel, aye.
Keel, aye. Kosnick. Kosnick. McDonald. McDonald, aye. Miller.
Miller, aye.
Miller, aye. Moran.
Aye.
Moran, aye. Nelson, N.
Nelson and I.
Nelson, N.I. Olson, B.
Olson B. I.
Olson, B. I. Sandstede.
Hanson, I.
Sandstede, I. Schumacher. Schumacher.
Schumacher, I.
Schumacher, I. Swazinski.
Swazinski, I.
Swazinski, I. Thompson. Thompson.
The clerk will close the roll. There being 121 ayes and 4 nays, the bill is passed as amended and its title agreed to. The next bill on the calendar for the day is House File 3805.
House File number 3805, number 4 on the calendar for the day, an act relating to public safety, removing the sunset of the Capital Area Security Advisory Committee.
I recognize the author of the bill, Representative Nash.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I wanted to first thank Representative Winkler, who just left the floor, but he is my co-author. We both serve on the Capital Area Security Commission or Committee, along with Senators Limmer and Dibble, Lieutenant Governor Flanagan, and Chief Justice Gilday. For those of you that don't know what the Capital Area Security Committee is, in our large area, so this is not just the Capitol, but the entirety of the campus here, we have the conversation around how to keep it safe for people who work here on a daily basis, people who visit here, like the school kids that you see tromping around here lately. It's for people who serve here, and the conversation is in conjunction with people who are from also the administration, the Veterans Administration, from public sector. We have many security experts. We've had people from Target and other places who come specifically to help craft policy and push policy here into through bills to keep this area safe. We have a bill that's coming into the bonding bill that will help fund some of the security measures, because here's the reality, members. As we've seen in recent months and years, this is a place where people come to protest, and we absolutely applaud peaceful protests, but sometimes it goes a little sideways, and we're trying to make sure that this building and the people who are here in all the buildings are safe. But we also know from briefings that we've received that very often we have outside bad actors who may be considered terrorists that would like to impact our capital area. So we have all the people who I've mentioned. We have our own Sergeant-at-Arms, who's not here at the moment, but Bob Meyerson and Sven from the Senate are also on this. And this bill simply removes a sunset because, as I said, this is not ever really going to go away. This is going to be a persistent issue. So I would welcome your green vote to make sure this continues so that we can have our eyes on safety here at the Capitol area. And with that, I would stand for questions, Mr. Speaker.
There are no amendments at the desk. The clerk will give the bill its third reading.
Third reading, House File number 3805.
Third reading. Discussion to the bill. To the bill author, Representative Nash.
Well, members, once again, Representative Winkler, thanks for being my co-author on this. We both put a lot of effort into this because safety is important, and with that, I would ask for a green vote.
Further discussion. The representative from Wright, Representative McDonald.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. You probably didn't see me behind tall Mr. Representative Nash. Thank you for your service to the Capitol Security, Representative Winkler, and the rest on the committee. I'm going to vote yes, of course, it's very important, but I think it's a good idea that this body has sunsets so we can bring it up again. Seldom will this body ever be able to collectively talk about the issue, again, of Capitol security. So I like the idea, personally, of all sunsets of many commissions, because the state of Minnesota has many, many commissions and different advisory boards, that is a good idea to bring forth to the body that we can discuss it. So I do like the Senate provision that they have a sunset of 2036. even that might be a little bit too late, because I think is a good idea, perhaps you'll disagree with me, that's fine, that we have the debate here and have an opportunity to give our voice, especially when it comes to capital security, for those visitors and those who work here. So for that reason, I don't oppose the bill, but I think it's a good idea that we probably adopt the Senate's version sometime later with a sunset so we can actually talk about it collectively. But again, thank you for the good service and keeping us safe. It's well appreciated, and God bless you all.
Any further discussion to the bill? Representative Nash, you're good? Okay. Seeing no further discussion, the clerk will take the roll. Members, please vote. Will the clerk please call the names of the members who have not voted yet?
Christensen.
Christensen, aye.
Christensen, aye. Drazkowski.
Drazkowski, no.
Drazkowski, no. Franzen.
Franzen, aye.
Franzen, aye. Hamilton.
Hamilton, aye.
Hamilton, aye. Hausman.
Hausman, aye.
Hausman, aye. Hollins.
Hollins, aye.
Hollins, aye. Keel.
Keel, aye.
Keel, aye. Kosnick.
Aye.
Kosnick, aye. Mariani. Mariani. Miller.
Miller, no.
Miller, no. Moran.
Aye.
Moran, aye. Nelson, N. Nelson, N. Olson, B.
Olson, B, aye.
Olson, B, aye. Sandstede.
Sandstede, aye.
Sandstede, aye. Swazinski.
Swazinski, aye.
Swazinski, aye. Thompson. Thompson. No, she's on. She's excused.
The clerk will close the roll. There being 115 ayes and 9 nays, the bill is passed and its title agreed to. We will revert to messages from the Senate.
Madam Speaker, I hereby announce the passage by the Senate of the following Senate file herewith transmitted. Senate file number 4025, an act relating to opioids. The message is signed Cal R. Ludeman, Secretary of the Senate.
First reading of Senate files.
First reading Senate file number 4025, an act relating to opioids. Pursuant to Article 4, Section 19 of the Constitution of the State of Minnesota, Olson L. moved that the rule therein be suspended and an urgency be declared, and that the rules of the House be so far suspended so that Senate file number 4025 be given its second and third readings and be placed upon its final passage.
I call on the member who is the author of the motion, Representative Olson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. So yes, this is my motion, House File 4025, passed unanimously in the Senate yesterday, and this is the opioid settlement legislation, and so we want to take it up today
in order to be able to pass it so that we can start leveraging these funds. And so I'd ask for members' support of the motion.
Further discussion. Representative Baker.
Mr. Speaker, I also encourage members to support the suspension of the rules today. It's an important bill. Let's get to it. Thank you.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. The motion prevails. The clerk will give the bill its second reading.
Second reading, Senate File Number 4025.
Second reading, boom. Second reading. Discussion.
Mr. Speaker, this is Representative Olson. I'd like to present the bill if possible.
To the author, Representative Olson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. So Senate File 4025 as before us is the opioid settlement legislation, as I mentioned. So for those around in 2019, you may remember the legislation that Representative Baker, myself, Senator Eaton, and Senator Rosen worked on, which was a pretty big piece of legislation, landmark really, which established licensing fees on opioid manufacturers and distributors and dedicated an account for these funds to be put into to be used to combat the opioid crisis. And with that, we created the Opioid Epidemic Response Council, which Representative Koegel and Representative Baker sit on for the House. And so they do grant making to get these funds out to combat the crisis. So when we created this legislation in 2019, we knew that we'd likely be seeing funds coming in from litigation into the state of Minnesota, but we didn't really know what the terms of that would look like. And so we put some pieces together to be ready, but we knew some things might need to change when those funds came in. So last summer, the state of Minnesota joined nationwide settlements with opioid distributors McKesson, Cardinal, and AmerisourceBergen, and manufacturers Johnson & Johnson. So we know those are the actions that fueled the opioid epidemic, as we discussed at great length back in 2019. So Minnesota is expected to receive around $300 million from these funds. And I just want to say a special note of gratitude at this point to Attorney General Olson for fighting hard in those settlement discussions and to ensure that the release of the documents was a part of that settlement. So I just wanted to note that. So the complex settlement requires the states to come to agreement with local governments on certain terms. So the Office of Collaboration and Dispute Resolution convened various stakeholders, including the Association of Minnesota Counties, the League of Minnesota Cities, the Coalition of Greater Minnesota Cities, the State of Minnesota, and the Attorney General's Office. They worked together to reach an agreement on funding distribution, and the agreement calls for counties and cities to receive 75% of the settlement funds and 25% to go to the state. So coming out of the stakeholder process, and as mentioned earlier, we knew we need to make legislative changes in order to capture these funds. And so that is what is before us in the bill today. So it implements the 75-25 split, which also establishes two accounts within the opioid fund, one for the registration license fees that we put in place in 2019, and one for the settlement account, which we're describing now. The legislation also released funds. Current law specifies that the settlement funds must be deposited in a separate account in the state treasury, and funds only go to the opioid funds once the Board of Pharmacy fees sunset. So Senate File 4025 makes changes to get these funds out right away in combating the opioid crisis as they come in. Another piece in this legislation is the claims bar. In order to maximize how much settlement money Minnesota receives requires barring subdivisions regarding legal claims against the opioid companies. So additionally, existing law is kind of unclear regarding whether settlement funds go directly to local governments could count towards the $250 million in the sunset. So under Senate File 4025, all settlement money counts towards the sunset number. However, we did negotiate with the Senate to ensure that we could extend out that sunset date until July 1st, 2024, from July 1st, 2024 to July 1st, 2031 to ensure we had that full $250 million captured before we started to lower the registration fees. So further, the bill requires municipalities receiving direct payments from the settlement agreement to report annually to DHS on how the payments were used on opioid remediation, and the report must include data and measurable outcomes on expenditures funded with these payments. The ORAC will review this information, and that's the group that Representative Koegel and Representative Baker serve on our behalf. And lastly, the bill includes additional funds to DHS to collect, collate, and report data submitted to monitor and comply with the reporting and settlement expenditure requirements by the grantees and the municipalities that receive this money. So a technical bill, but really a bill that the intent is to, as quickly as we can, put this anticipated $250 million to good use fighting the opioid epidemic. And so with that, I will turn it over, if possible, Mr. Speaker, if you could also call on Representative Baker to describe the bill.
Okay, I think there are no amendments. Yeah, there are no amendments at the desk. The clerk will give the bill its third reading.
Third reading, Senate File Number 4025.
Third reading. Discussion to the bill. I recognize the member from Anoka, Representative Koegel.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, the most important thing this bill does is get money to the organizations that are fighting to save our loved ones from addiction. We have a crisis now, and it's vital that once the settlement money comes into our state, that it goes right to the boots on the ground who are fighting to save our loved ones. The Opioid Epidemic Response Advisory Council has taken a thoughtful and deliberate approach when deciding how the money is going to be distributed. We really look at things like promising practices, gaps in state and federal funding, culturally specific care. And so these organizations are helping in our communities and making sure that we're adapting to meet current needs and providing support that no doubt saves lives. Treatment and recovery saved my brother, and this bill ensures that we can get the settlement money to help people most affected by the disease of addictions. Please support this. Thank you, members.
I recognize the member from Candy, Ohio, Representative Baker.
So members, this bill is kind of that next step in the process of helping our members in the recovery community, in the workforce community that are trying to help people get out of this horrible disease of addiction. Most of you here know this is a very personal story for me. Writing this legislation 4 years ago was really a sort of a life-changing thing for me because nobody in the country had done a bill like this before. There was a lot of members here that helped me get it to a certain point, both senators, representatives, both sides of the aisle, and in 2019, again, with the help of Representative Olson, we got it past the finish line, passed it, one of the first in the country, to relook at our licensing fees and how we do our medicine and license our pharmaceutical companies in Minnesota, and we took that money and we're doing some really good things with it. House File 400, this is sort of that 2.0. As Representative Olson very clearly stated, what this bill does, it now creates this new form of revenue to the ORAC Council. Again, ORAC stands for the Opioid Epidemic Response Advisory Council. I happen to be honored to be the chair of that ORAC Council right now. And we do a lot of really good things in Minnesota. The dollars that comes into ORAC are used for local grants to nonprofits, to counties, for-profits do it for workforce, education, prevention, law enforcement, and we're doing a lot of good things with this. This council has the ability to directly appropriate this dollars. Unlike most advisory councils, we have, and thanks to you, legislators, we have that authority to do that. So what this bill does today is we're getting ready for the lawsuits that are coming into Minnesota. The Attorney General's office has done a very good job with the help of Eric Maloney, Evan Romanoff, Keith Ellison, and John Keller have worked with a number of us to make sure we got the language right. We worked with the Association of Minnesota Counties. We worked with the League of Minnesota Cities and the Greater Coalition of Minnesota Cities to make sure we got the language right, because every single county
agrees to this because they're going to get 75% of the dollars coming from the lawsuit dollars, going right to their public health departments, and we're going to do some good things. And we're going to, as the ORAC, we're going to help them collaborate with other counties nearby. We're going to share our wins and what programs are working well with the results first portion of this, that we are also seeing some good programs that are moving some things in the right direction. Also, we clear up the sunset provision in House File 400, so we know now when we're able to lower the fees to the pharmaceutical companies, the distributors that are paying a higher fee now in Minnesota. We know when we're going to get to that point of $250 million, which was in the original bill, of when we now turn down the sunset portion. That'll be coming up in the year 2031, when we know that's the moment we'll have our money in the bank, according to the structure, because this is an 18-year-long $300 million coming to Minnesota. We just don't get it all at one time, so it's going to take some time. Again, Minnesota is getting noticed for this bill. Recently, again, we had the opportunity to speak to this in Atlanta. They want to know from other states, what are we doing in Minnesota to get the pharmaceutical companies to pay attention? And this bill did that. And now this update is reaffirming what we are doing, because we didn't change a whole lot of anything in House File 400 because we actually worked really hard to get it right first. This is, for me, the best kind of legislation we can all work on together. It thought hard about the members and the seats they represent on the ORAC Council. It thought seriously about putting money into a different fund so we can't go after it, members. And it provided some good leadership, some new looking at a problem that was devastating our communities and our families, from folks that hijacked our medical community to get this thing running the way it is today. So this is a really good moment, and I thank you for suspending the rules so we can get this to the governor's office so he can sign this bill. But again, I've thanked the folks we need to thank. I want to thank my dear friends, Senator Rosen, Senator Eaton, who have been the original authors on this, certainly along with Representative Liz Olson, who was a champion with this when I needed her help the most. She was there to help get this thing over the finish line. So I really appreciate the support, members, to this. It's a day that in Minnesota, the members back in our districts that you know of that have either lost somebody or they're currently in maybe a treatment facility, or maybe they're in recovery. This is a day we're doing some good work for those people suffering from the disease of addiction. Help me with the stigma of what addiction has become. Help me with changing that conversation. And the dollars now coming to Minnesota with lawsuits are going to be flowing better, faster, and directly to our counties with good legislation like this. So, members, thank you. I sure do appreciate a lot of green votes today on this bill, and appreciate your time today again. Thank you, members.
To the author of the bill, Representative Olson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members, and I just also want to echo a few thank yous here. This was a lot of work for this opioid settlement bill over the interim and before, lots and lots of meetings, negotiations, and our staff were there for many of them. So Joe Durheim, Jeremiah Wingstead, and Randy Chun spent a lot of time on this bill prior to session getting it right. And of course, Representative Koegel for her work on the ORAC committee, and also helping to make sure this bill was ready to make its way through the legislative process. And to the AG, the Attorney General himself, and all the staff that worked so hard, both on the settlement and ensuring we passed the legislation. They did great work on the settlement and then had to turn it over to us to make it through the legislature, which I'm sure was a little nerve-wracking for a moment. So Laura Takenholtzy, Evan Romanoff, and Eric Maloney, to name three that I work closely with. And then, of course, the Senators Rosen and Eaton, who are on their last few days here at the legislature and wanted to make sure this got done, and whose fierce determination is really unrivaled. And of course, Representative Baker, partner in all of this work from day one, and just in it, willing to work on this in such a collaborative way is so appreciated.
And I just want to close by saying, in a letter of support we received from a community organization, they just put it so simply. If this bill passes, the money can be used immediately in funding dozens and dozens of treatment and prevention efforts in our communities that will truly save lives. And so I ask for your support, and I also ask that we don't think this is it. This epidemic, unfortunately, is going in the wrong direction in terms of numbers. And so we need to think hard as legislators in every budget area and every issue area we work on. It is our responsibility to continue to be innovative with the programs we're funding, the types of things we're doing, our ability to go upstream, because it's an all hands on deck moment. And yes, this will be a big piece of saving lives, but we have so much work to do as legislature. And so I urge your support today of this file, and thank Senate File 4025, and thank everyone who worked on it.
There being no further discussion, the clerk will take the roll. Members voting remotely, please vote. Will the clerk please call the names of the members who have not voted yet?
Davids.
David's aye.
Davids, aye. Drazkowski.
Drazkowski, no.
Drazkowski, no. Franzen. Franzen.
Franzen votes yes.
Franzen, aye. Hamilton.
Hamilton, aye.
Hamilton, aye. Hausman.
Hausman, aye.
Hausman, aye. Hollins.
Hollins, aye.
Hollins, aye. Keel.
Keel, aye.
Keel, aye. Kosnick. Kosnick. What the hell? Miller.
Miller, no.
Miller, no. Moran.
Moran, aye.
Moran, aye. Nelson, N.
Nelson and I.
Nelson, N, aye. Olson, B.
Olson B, aye.
Olson, B, aye. Sandstede.
Sandstede, aye.
Sandstede, aye. Swazinski.
Swazinski, aye.
Swazinski, aye. Thompson. Thompson.
The clerk will close the roll.
Zhang Jie. Zhang Jie.
Sorry, Jay.
What?
Kosnick, aye.
Kosnick, aye. Zhang Jie.
All right.
Aye.
Zhang Jie, please repeat.
Zhang Jie, aye.
Zhang Jie, aye.
Thank you. The clerk will close the roll. There being 119 ayes and 8 nays, the bill is passed and its title agreed to. We revert to messages from the Senate.
Message from the Senate. Madam Speaker, I hereby announce the passage by the Senate of the following Senate file herewith transmitted. Senate file number 4233. The message is signed Cal R. Ludeman, Secretary of the Senate.
First reading of Senate files.
First reading, Senate File Number 4233, an act relating to state government, appropriating money for veterans and military affairs pursuant to Article 4, Section 19 of the Constitution of the State of Minnesota. Eklund moved that the rule therein be suspended and an urgency be declared, and that the rules of the House be so far suspended so that Senate File Number 4233 be given its second and third readings and be placed upon its final passage.
To the author of the motion, Representative Eklund.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. That is my motion. Senate File 4233 passed unanimously off the Senate floor yesterday, and I ask for your members' support.
Discussion. Representative
Are we okay on that? Okay.
Heinrich?
Yep.
Representative Heinrich.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, when I was a young child, I'm sorry. I just wanted to talk a little bit about my grandpa, but I'm going to do that in a little while.
Very good.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Discussion to the motion. Representative Nash.
Members, I would encourage a green vote on suspension.
Further discussion. All those in favor of the motion to suspend the rules, say aye. Aye. All those opposed, say no. The motion prevails. To the author of the bill, Representative Eklund.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Representative Eklund, 1 second. We got to give the bill its second reading.
Second reading, Senate File Number 4233.
Second reading. Representative Eklund, back to you.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. We can't get ahead of ourselves here anyway. So, Mr. Speaker, members, this bill is a result of dedication and bicameral, bipartisan compromise. Senate File 4233, as passed and amended by the other body yesterday, represents that our system can work for our veterans and for the state of Minnesota. While this compromise legislation does not include some provisions and appropriations that could have made it a great bill, members, this is a good bill, and I'm proud of it and proud to support it. This bill makes numerous investments in our housing for our veterans through finishing last year's agreement to build the veterans' homes in Bemidji, Montevideo, and Preston, communities that previously did not have these homes. We're also making significant investments that seek to end veterans' homelessness in the state of Minnesota. While our investments in this bill is not as large as they were in the bill that we passed off the House floor, we are investing over $6.5 million to end veterans' homelessness. We provide temporary supportive housing to deal with the influx of veterans experiencing homelessness and move them to permanent housing options across the state. Building permanent housing so that the veterans experiencing homelessness now and in the future have a place to go where their needs can be met. And we are coordinating landlord and tenancy support services to keep veterans at risk for homelessness in their housing options. Through this compromise, members and Mr. Speaker, we are funding the vast majority of the requests from the Minnesota Department of Military Affairs and Department of Veterans Affairs. Investments in veterans across programs in the state of Minnesota. We provide bonus pay for veterans who have participated in America's post 9/11 wars with $25 million in bonus payments, $600 for vets of Iraq and Afghanistan, and $2,000 for gold-starred families. And this is limited, members, to the veterans who had Minnesota on their discharge paperwork and who currently live in Minnesota. We're providing funding for enlistment and re-enlistment bonuses for our National Guard to ensure that the Guard stays active and ready for service. We increase county veteran service officer grants and increase grants to veteran service organizations to support the activities that they provide. We deliver a grant to the Big Marine Veterans Campground to upgrade their wastewater system. We fund ongoing operating expenses for the new Redwood Falls State Veterans Cemetery. We provide funding for the Fisher House near the Fargo VA Medical Center that will serve Minnesota veterans and their families as they receive care. And finally, members, we deliver a grant to the Minnesota Navy League for activities around the commissioning of the USS Minneapolis-St. Paul. This is a good bill, members, and I look forward to the discussion. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
There are no amendments at the desk. The clerk will give the bill its third reading.
Third reading, Senate File Number 4233.
Third reading. Discussion to the bill. I recognize the member from Anoka, Representative Heinrich.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And thank you, Representative Eklund. I did get a little ahead of myself there, but I was excited to speak about your bill. When I was a young kid, I remember vividly my grandpa showing me his Navy uniforms and talking about his service as a engineer on a submarine. And he really, I think, instilled in me a desire to serve others because I saw him set that example. Members, I'm very pleased that this is coming back to the floor as a standalone bill today. I served in the Marine Corps from '99 to 2007, including 2 tours in Iraq, 10 months each in theater, so 20 months in theater in Iraq. And I'm just so grateful for the opportunity to serve this great country, grateful for the relationships that I made during that time with the men and women that I served with. And I'm grateful for everybody that's currently serving and our veterans here in Minnesota and our country. With that, I want to thank also Representative Detmer. He's been a mentor to me. I wasn't a part of the House of Representatives while you were the chair of the Veterans Committee. We've had a great chair in Representative Eklund. But I want to thank you for your leadership over the years before I was here. And thank you so much for your work on this bill. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I recognize the member from Hennepin, Representative Greenman.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you, members. I echo that. I think that this bill reflects the great work of the House Committee and the leadership of the committee and our chair, Chair Eklund, in bringing back a bill that has most of the House provisions and the support that our veterans deserve. You know, a few weeks ago, the rotunda was filled with veterans rallying in support of many of these provisions and investments and asking for an omnibus veterans bill. And I am proud that we're bringing them back, these provisions and investments in that bill. I want to just talk quickly about 2 provisions that I'm most proud of. One is the enlistment incentives that I carried for our National Guard members. I think we all know how important the National Guard has been in our communities, and they have seen an unprecedented uptake in needs, stepping in to serve our communities in nursing homes, in communities responding to unrest, and in federal service. And this is a tool that the agency can use and that the Army can use in order to encourage the retention and the experience of our experienced soldiers. The other thing I want to talk about, and I'm really proud of, is the investments we're making in completing these veterans' homes. You might ask, as a member from Minneapolis, I'm rising really to talk about the homes in Bemidji, Montevideo, and Preston. But I know the VA hospitals in my district, the Minneapolis Veterans Home is about to be in my district, and I know that these are not just regional investments; these are statewide investments and commitments that we as Minnesotans are making to those folks who serve. Many of us had an opportunity to go down to Hastings a few weeks ago with Representative Juergens, and Commissioner Herkey invited us to tour that facility and talk about the ways that that facility and others need to be upgraded to ensure that our veterans have the care and the comfort that they need in the communities. And so I'm grateful that we're doing these in Bemidji, Montevideo, and Preston. I look forward to the work to doing that in Hastings and in Minneapolis and others. So with that, I will just say this is a great bill. I'm proud to support it. I'm proud and hope that we are all in support of this. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The member from Anoka, Representative Raleigh.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I also am a veteran, served from 1984 to early 1990s. I will not be eligible for this. I didn't serve during this period, but I did serve during the first Gulf War. And one of the things that happened that was a lesson that we learned from Vietnam is after many of us had completed our services to our country, being deployed overseas, we were brought to rest camps and we were brought into counseling, and we got an opportunity to share our experiences and have this decompression time. And I found it to be incredibly helpful.
what I'm noticing that Minnesota is doing is it's renewing its commitment to those it served. You know, in this bill, we've got the Veterans Rest Camp, we've got the domiciliary services that are going on with being able to take our veterans and give them the care that they need. Again, you know, thank you to both sides of the aisle, and especially to Chair Eklund. You know, you and I have had some great conversations about this. Specifically, we need to take care of our veterans that are going to be experiencing homelessness. Chair Eklund shared with me that his heart was in fixing the veterans' homeless issues, and I'm going to renew that commitment as well. We need to make sure that our veterans are taken care of. This is a fantastic bill, and more importantly, this is an omnibus bill that is single subject, and it falls within what I think this type of a bill should do. I will gladly support this, and I would encourage all the members of this body, as you're listening to our veterans and as you listen to Representative Detmer, you know, we were on the ground. We experienced what this bill will do for our veterans. This is a good bill. So thank you, Mr. Speaker. I wholeheartedly support this.
The representative from Washington, Representative Jurgens.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you, Mr. Chair, for bringing this bill forward. There's a lot of us that wanted the opportunity to be able to vote for this bill as a standalone, so I appreciate you bringing that forward, and Representative Greenman for mentioning the Hastings Veterans Home. I'm glad that this bill is taking care of the veterans for the 3 new homes in Bemidji, Montevideo, and Preston, and I look forward to perhaps before the session ends that we also can take care of the veterans that Representative Greenman mentioned in the Hastings Veterans Home. There's a request by the governor and the Minnesota Department of Veterans Affairs to replace the veterans home, the aging veterans home in Hastings, with a brand new state-of-the-art facility. And I think that it's a lot of money, but I think that the veterans deserve better than what we were able to provide for them in that Hastings Veterans Home. And I thank those of you that came to the tour a couple of weeks ago in Hastings. I'm looking forward to supporting the bill today, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The representative from Dakota, Representative Berg.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I just want to start out by saying thank you to those who have served right here in this chamber. It's much appreciated, and it's not acknowledged often enough. I'm really passionate about veterans issues. We all have stories of family members or people in our community that we know that were affected by the things that our vets experience. So I'm so grateful to have a chair that is so committed and relentless in what we can do to help our veterans. Thank you, Chair Eklund. Vets protect our right to do what we're doing right now, or what we do at just about any given time. They have defended the way that many of us live. It's our turn to help them live. I am proud that my bill, HF 4337, is in this omnibus bill. Veterans issues is one of the things that brings us together from both sides of the aisle. And it's one thing that I share with Representative Jurgens, Bliss, Raleigh, Detmer. We all have a deep respect for the work that we do. And so we know that housing is critical to everything that any one of us do to build a life, to be safe, to have an address to provide for employment opportunities, to have a sanctuary from life's challenges, especially as part of the healing process for our vets who suffer from a collection of trauma. So what this part of the bill does is it gives incentives to landlords to provide housing for vets. It helps, it gives incentive payments to the landlords to cover should a vet default on their rent. And it's something that I think sort of plays into the equity of the housing field. So members, please vote for this bill. It's a great bill. And thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I recognize the member from Carver, Representative Nash.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I've served on the State Government Finance Committee since I got here 8 years ago, and we have always melded the Veterans Bill in with the State Government Finance Bill, and that's always kind of annoyed me because if ever there's a case to be made for a bill completely going on its own, it's this. So I'm grateful for the efforts that have been expended by a lot of us to get this thing pulled out. And yes, it pains me to say, thanks to the Senate. But thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm grateful that we were able to do that because there are a lot of good things in here. I'm about to have a kid who is a veteran. He's going to be coming out of the Navy here in about 6-7 months. Going to go off to college and then go back in as an officer. But we need to take care of our veterans. And this does a great job at that. So also very grateful for the spending for LCS 21. That, again, I've asked all of you to respond to that. Go to the event. It's going to blow your mind. It is an unbelievable thing that is being done to name a combat vessel of the American Navy after our 2 largest cities here in the state. It's going to be something that all of you will want to go to. And so I'm very grateful, but mostly grateful that we were able to allow this to go solo. Representative Detmer, you got your wish. Thank you.
To the member from Hennepin, Representative Bonner.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. I rise today first to say thank you to all of the veterans within the reach of my voice today for your incredible service. I can tell you that I have been delighted to be the granddaughter and great-granddaughter of veterans, and of course my son, who just came out of the Marines and is working on his master's. So I am really grateful for that, and I want to thank Chair Eklund for this bill in particular, mostly because he went above and beyond. And what I hear from the veterans, including in the local American Legion that I just came from last night, I hear them saying that they want this bill to be a standalone bill. They want us to acknowledge the value and the contributions of our veterans. They wanted to hear us talk about things like the 9/11 bonus pay for veterans that they are so excited about. They are really excited about suicide prevention and making sure that no more of their brethren fall by the wayside when it comes to PTSD or depression or any of the like. They also are really excited about the veterans' homes. And when they talk about those veterans' homes and getting to the final stages, they are so excited about the opening of these facilities and the ability to help our veterans who have maybe fallen by the wayside. They are just so excited and thrilled to have the legislature on their side. So I want to thank all of us. I want to thank especially Henry and to our commander at the Legion Post 172 for their commitment and their continued support of these measures. Thank you, members, and I appreciate a green vote.
I recognize the member from Washington, Representative Detmer.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And Chair Eklund, we did it. We've got a standalone Veterans Omnibus bill to come to the House floor and the Senate floor for the first time, I think, in the history of our institution here. I know I've been working on this mission. I call it Mission First, to get this to the House floor as a standalone bill. And 16 years I've been working on it. And together we've been able to get people to look and give a priority to our veterans and brings a bill to the House floor, just a single issue, to serve our veterans population here in Minnesota. I hope this sets a precedence now for years to come. Whoever's in charge of this body, keep in mind what we just did this year. Because every year there's going to be some issues that we have to cover for our veterans and those currently serving in the military. And I'm sure that Military Affairs and Veterans Affairs are listening in today. I'm sure they are giving each other high fives that we finally, as a body, came through with a standalone bill for veterans. And it's really ironic, though. I'm going to have to keep my name off the board. Why? Because I qualify for the bonuses. And I'm one of those veterans that served after 9/11, which included 25 years of my service. And but I just feel it's more appropriate me now to be in that I qualify for that bonus. You still have to apply for the bonus. It could range from $600, $1,200, and but I will be keeping my name off the board. So I just want everybody to understand that. But I think we'll have enough votes to pass it. So, Mr. Speaker, and you're sitting in a position right now that's, make sure you put this on your calendar. This is a date that will live on. I hope it lives on here in the House of Representatives. So, members and Speaker, thank you so much.
Thank you, Representative Detmer. To the author of the bill, Representative Eklund.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. This indeed is a precedent-setting day, and I echo Representative Detmer's words that I hope that stays that way, because the Veterans Bill should never be part of the political ping-pong that sometimes happens when you have to put that into some other omnibus bill. A couple thanks before we go. Speaker Hartman, thank you for entrusting me with as chair of this committee. Without your support, we could have never got this far, so I appreciate it. Nick Stuma-Longer, thanks. Dave Sullivan, researcher, and John Hultquist, researcher from the GOP side. Our committees won't work without those folks, because the little orange and little yellow sheets coming out always tell us what we really need to know. And then, of course, Jeff Diebel and Helen Roberts, fiscal staff and nonpartisan staff. Our staff in these things truly do not get enough credit for what they do to make sure this operation runs. I'm disappointed that we couldn't get the suicide funding into the bill, but I'll make the pledge to the veterans out there and the groups that work in these suicide funding programs that will be part of next year's Veterans Bill, one way or another, because it's important that we take care of that vital aspect of our veterans' lives in society. Members, Mr. Speaker, this compromise language is a result of two chairs from different political parties that decided to say, heck with politics, let's throw that away and let's sit down and get this done. So, Senator Lang, thank you for the work and your staff that you worked to do this. It's been about 10 days, but we did get it done. So, members, this is a good bill. I ask for your support.
There being no further discussion, the clerk will take the roll. Members, please vote. Will the clerk please call the names of the members who have not voted yet?
Davids.
Davids votes aye.
Davids, aye. Drazkowski.
Drazkowski, aye.
Drazkowski, aye. Franzen.
Franson, aye.
Franzen, aye. Hamilton.
Hamilton, aye.
Hamilton, aye. Hausman.
Hausman, aye.
Hausman, aye. Hollins.
Hollins, aye.
Hollins, aye. Keel.
Keel, aye.
Keel, aye. Kosnick.
Kosnick, aye.
Kosnick, aye. Moran.
Moran, aye.
Moran, aye. Nelson, N.
Nelson, aye.
Nelson, N, aye. Petersburg.
Petersburg, aye.
Petersburg, aye. Sandstede.
Sandstede, aye.
Sandstede, aye. Swazinski.
Swazinski, aye.
Swazinski, aye. Thompson. Thompson. Zhang Ti.
Zhang Ti, aye.
Zhang Ti, aye.
The clerk will close.
Christensen, aye.
Want me to say Christensen votes aye.
The clerk will close the roll.
I know.
There being 121 ayes and 1 nay, the bill is passed and its title agreed to. Announcements. I recognize the member from Washington, Representative Jurgens.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. 17 years ago today, on May 6th, 2005, while working undercover investigating a human trafficking ring, St. Paul Police Sergeant Jerry Vick was killed in the line of duty. Sergeant Vick and his partner, Sergeant Joe Strong, were working undercover at Eric's Bar on St. Paul's East Side. They had a verbal confrontation with 2 males outside the bar. Sergeant Vick and Sergeant Strong left in their own vehicles with the intention of returning to headquarters to complete their shifts. One of the men approached Sergeant Strong's vehicle as he was stopped at a red light near the bar. Sergeant Strong called upon Sergeant Vick for assistance. Both officers exited their vehicles to pursue the men on foot down an alley across from Eric's Bar. As Sergeant Vick approached one of the males, Vick was shot. Although CPR was performed, his wounds were fatal. The assailant was arrested, found guilty, and sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of release. Sergeant Vick was survived by his wife Connie, son Clayton, daughter Amanda, his parents Dennis and Margaret, his brother Ken, and sisters Lynn and Arlene. I had the pleasure of meeting Connie and Clayton last summer when I emceed the annual Jerry Vick Memorial Golf Tournament at River Oaks Golf Course in Cottage Grove. Sergeant Vick served on the St. Paul Police Department for 16 years. His badge number was 186. Sergeant Gerald Dennis Vick, end of watch, May 6, 2005. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Announcements. Representative Novotny.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would like to announce that today is the first Friday at 70+ degrees. The garage door is open.
Further announcements. Representative Wolgamott.
Mr. Speaker, I move that when the House adjourns today, it adjourns until 3:30 p.m. Monday, May 9th, 2022.
Representative Wolgamott moves that when the House adjourns today, it adjourns until 3:30 Monday, May 9th, 2022. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. No. The motion prevails. Representative Wolgamott.
Mr. Speaker, I move that the House do now adjourn.
Representative Wolgamott moves that the House do now adjourn. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. No. The motion prevails and the House stands adjourned until 3:30 Monday, May 9th, 2022.